We used to be best friends, used to do good things together. Oh no, but no more.
It's just a distant memory.
My homie, buddy, cousin, it all just fell apart. I'm sorry.
Nah, I'm not sorry.
It's just a distant memory. Yeah, yeah. My name said who's bestie? Dr. Chico, come on. Dr. Chico, come on. My name said who's bestie? Dr. Chico, come on. Dr. Chico, come on. My name said who's.
Hello?
Hey, what's happening?
Hello, hello.
I know I'm 1 minute early. I feel like
I
apologizing.
was going to say, can you cut that hello out? Cut it out.
It's too late, blood.
No, you got to cut it out, Tinder. Just get read. Just get read, please. Just get read. I didn't think you were recording already.
Well, we don't waste no time, Yana.
Oh, stop. Just restart the entire thing, yeah. Just do me a solid.
Okay, fine. Gling, 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 gling.
Hi.
Welcome to the feeling station. How you feeling?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm ecstatic. It's Friday, and I almost feel like doing that song. It's Friday night, da, 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 da. Because I've been waiting for the weekend since Monday.
That bad?
Yes, it's just been one of those weeks.
Oh, tell me about it.
For those who are listening to this podcast for the first time, it touches on romantic, friend, and family breakups that people go through with a view to give you lessons that you can learn from my guest experience. And the podcast is doing great for two main reasons. One, first, is that I do my best to keep my guest anonymous, which brings me to the fun part. The part where you get the name you're going to use for the duration of this episode. Do you have your pen and paper ready?
Oh, God, yeah, go for it.
All right. So your name is from West Africa, from the Hausa tribe, and it's called Hadiza, which is Hadiza, Hadiza.
Okay.
Right? And what that means is that someone with no desire, right?
Oh, I feel offended, You are shady.
Someone with no desire, but that's up to you. You maybe you got no desire for bullshit. Maybe you got no desire for people who waste your time. Do you see how this could actually be a positive thing? And in the same breath, maybe you have no desire for, I don't know, other things.
Okay.
Anyway, that's what it means.
I see you. It's okay.
That's what it means. And what are you giving the name of the person you're talking about today?
I won't give any names.
No.
I'll just use initials.
Okay, right. Initials.
Yeah.
So not just one.
Yeah. Huh?
Okay, so what are the initials you're going to use?
I'll start with B1 for the first one.
B1.
Yeah.
Okay. And is B1 the focal point of this thing?
No.
No. So what, there's going to be B2 and whatever?
Yes, you get it.
Fine, I get it. So I'm going to stick with B1. So this is going to be a story about Hadiza and B1. And the second reason why the podcast is doing great is there are real life lessons that people are going to learn from what you're going to share today. So what would you like people to learn from your experience?
I think I have one lesson. If you can't love somebody's children, don't get with someone with children.
Eesh. Do you know what? That is so real. That is incredibly real.
There's other people out there, as they say, there's plenty of fish in the sea.
sea.
Honestly, just walk. It's okay.
Hey.
He's not for you or she's not for you. Just leave it alone.
I really like that. So, just to sum it up, your name is Hadiza. That means one with no desire. We'll see whether that is relatable in any of this, right? And the individual that you're going to speak about to start off with is B1. And the lesson that you have is if you can't love somebody's children, don't get with someone with children. So, what are we talking about today? Are we talking about a friendship or a family breakup?
I don't know if it's a breakup, I think it's a telenovela. Yeah, let me put it that way. It's a telenovela.
That's a big word for me, fam. I ain't got a clue what that means.
Don't start with your college words.
No, serious. The telenovela for me is a college word.
It's like a series, isn't it? It's like one without yet an ending.
Oh,
yes.
Hey, you're educating me. I think I'm also exposing my my limited viewership of television. Honestly, I did not know that at all. And I've just looked it up, and it says a telenovela is a type of television series or drama or soap opera produced primarily in Latin America and doesn't quite have a defined ending.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Okay, cool.
Very.
So your story is a telenovela. Let's get straight into it. What's going on?
So, I guess based on my lessons, it's easy to realize that I'm the stepchild in all of this.
Ooh.
Oh yeah. My mom, I don't really know her. So the woman that birthed me, I don't really know her. So we'll call her B1. I mean, I was born long time ago, but I'm not that old. I just won't tell you my age.
You-
Yes, that's a secret too.
you know, that's like saying dinosaurs are from a long time ago, but they're not that
Yes,
old.
yes,
Like, how does that
yes.
work? You can't have long time ago and not old in the same line.
Okay, so let's say roughly on an estimate about 30 years ago. Yeah, let's use estimate.
Are we using COVID years or real years? Because if we're using
No,
COVID
real
years, you're
years.
2 years
No.
younger. You know what I'm saying?
Aish, don't even start me with COVID years, Sha. Aish,
Okay, cool.
Anyway,
Right.
so
Yeah.
so she had one older daughter with somebody else, and then she had me and my older sister, and then I guess her and my father split up, but I don't really know the ins and outs of that.
Okay.
If you ask somebody else, they will tell you there was infidelity or whatever what happened. They split up. Me and my older sister went with her for a little bit, and then apparently she had another child after me, but that child sadly passed away.
Okay.
Again, no one knows how or whether there even was a child, because I didn't even know about that child until I was about 29.
Wow.
Yeah. So when it comes to my mother, the one that birthed me, there's a lot of secrecy in terms of what happened to her, how she died, no one will ever tell you anything. If you ask her side of the family, they tell you their own version. Then if you come to my father's side of the family, they'll be like, no, that's all lies. And then if you say to them, okay, tell me what the real thing is, then they'll say, oh, I can't remember, but I just know that's all lies.
That must be incredibly difficult for you as a child.
It is. I think even as an adult, because you don't really have an idea about 50% of who you are. The things that you do, that you wonder, do I get it from my father or do I get it from my mother? So it's a difficult one.
So,
but
so I know we're not going to go into specifics of your age.
Yeah.
I just get the feeling that you are in your 30s, somewhere within that range. So, how long ago did your mom pass away?
I
Roughly.
would say I think I was probably about 3 or 4 years old.
Ooh.
So bear in mind, I don't really remember her. Like, I actually don't know what she really looks like. I've
Yeah.
seen 2 pictures of her in my entire life, just 2. I don't know what she sounds like. I don't know what she smells. I have no memory of even having a relationship with her.
So, who raised you?
So this is where shit gets complicated.
Right.
So from what I understand, when they split up, we went with my father. No, sorry, with my mother, and our father carried on and had a relationship with somebody else. My mom got ill and she couldn't look after me and my sister, so she basically gave custody of me and my sister to my grandmother, my dad's mother. So we went and lived with her for a little bit, and then my dad took over. So we lived with him. I think there was a period where we lived with just him.
Yeah.
Where he looked after us. He would drop us off at my grandmother's house and go do what he needs to do work-wise, and then come and get us, and then, we'd go where we lived. He then remarried, so we'll call her mother number 2.
B2.
Or B2.
Yeah.
Yep. So he remarried, I think I was about 4 when he remarried. I have like tiny memories of their wedding day. I have memories of getting up and getting dressed and everyone being super, super excited. Because I remember we slept over at one of the church pastor's house. That's where, the bride and all the bridesmaids got dressed. I think both me and my sister were bridesmaids. I can't remember clearly. I just remember wearing a bridesmaid's dress. And now bear in mind, my sister is roughly about 3 years older than me.
Okay.
So she would have probably been about 7 or 8-ish. So after they got married, we moved in with mother number 2. And mother number 2 was nice to me, but wasn't nice to my sister.
Why?
And I'm putting that in very nice ways.
Why?
She, you know what? I don't even know. But all I know, like I said, I don't have vivid memories. But from some things I remember, she was quite abusive. And, by the age of like 7, my sister was being made to clean and cook. And I don't mean like, teaching Mtwana how to clean and cook. No, I mean do everything, like everything.
So one of the things I'm teaching my son to do now, and he's only 4, is to help around the house. So whenever I'm putting, say, dishes into the dishwasher, I will rinse them off, and then he will actually put them in. Then he'll put the tablet, then he'll turn it on, and then he gets a little star to say, "Okay, great, you've done this." So it wasn't that kind of chore.
No. When someone does like militant cleaning on a 7 or 8-year-old, I don't mean just helping around, saying to a child, "Go pick this up." No, I mean worse than that. Even cooking, like proper cooking suds and everything else.
At 7,
basically, they were treating her like a house girl. And she would hear her. You remember those coat hangers back home where there were wire coat hangers?
Yeah, the silver ones, yeah.
Yeah, she would undo those and use them to hit her.
Jesus.
And I used to get nightmares of it. So, I'd have nightmares that she is amputating her arms. I was a bit of a loudmouth back then. I mean, I still am, but, not much of a loudmouth as much. And she would I would basically go and tell my grandmother what was going on. And then my grandmother got the police involved.
So where was your dad when all of this was happening?
He was around. Maybe that's another lesson for people. Don't be so willfully blind. I think that's the thing that's going to become apparent, that there's a lot of willful blindness. There's a lot of making a choice, I guess, because it makes your life easy. I don't know whether it's because love overclouds things. I don't know whether it's, I can't put in words exactly what was going on because I never had the chance to ask those questions. So eventually she ended up getting pregnant with her own child.
Who ended up getting pregnant? B2?
My second step, yes.
Yeah, B2, okay.
Yeah, so she ended up getting pregnant and she had a little girl who unfortunately passed away.
Shame. And this was her first child, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I think she was probably about 6 or 7 months. She was very young when she passed away. I think even 6 months is me giving her too much of an age, but she got ill and passed away overnight.
Shame.
Again, no one's ever really sat down and said, "Okay, you guys were so young, so this is what happened to the younger sister that you all had." Again, if you try and ask questions, everybody will start telling you, "I don't remember." So
isn't it funny that they don't seem to remember?
Yeah, no, they don't. They never remember, Tindo. No matter how many times you beg, they don't remember. And then if you try and search for that information from somewhere else, and then you come back and say, "Well, this is what I found out," miraculously, they will always know that that's a lie.
So suddenly they remember that something is a lie.
Yeah, they remember those specifics.
But they forget the truth.
So if you say, and you'll realize that no matter how many times you say, "I don't care how bad things got," it doesn't mean I will stop caring about you, but just tell me so I know for my own peace of mind.
I guess that's a bit difficult for humans to accept. Because
I know,
as far as giving that information away is concerned for them, it's I know it's too risky.
I guess.
And I guess they just suspect that human nature is for you to turn your back and go back on your word.
But it depends how bad that is. Because then what you leave me in a position where I have to make my own assumptions.
So for you, if whatever story is very, very bad, are you ready to handle it?
I don't know. I can't give that answer
So maybe
because I don't know what it is I'm giving an answer to.
so maybe that's why this is being withheld.
But then that's cruel. I'm not a child. I'm in my 30s. If maybe I was 16 or 15, I would understand, but I'm in my 30s. Let that be my choice. Let me be the one that decides how I want to deal with it.
Yeah.
So we are now after she passed away. So my father decided to start seeing another woman.
Whilst you were still with B2.
Yep.
So here's a question. Did your father see someone else when he was still with your biological mom? Do you know that?
I think he did.
Oh, you think he did?
Oh, the rumor is that the one he married was his side chick.
That's the rumor.
Yeah.
And when you've asked about this rumor, you haven't been told the truth, obviously, because people don't remember, in quotes.
See, there's only one person who normally is willing to talk, but the problem is that most of the time, Nxesa Koluma, he's quite drunk, so you can never fully trust his word. But when or he's pissed off at people,
so he only speaks the truth after he's had one too many bottles. So, well, do you know what? How about we do it this way? The next time he does get drunk, take what he's saying as truth. And I'm only saying this. Alcohol, for the best part, gets rid of people's inhibitions. So things that they wouldn't normally say when they're sane and when they're when they're not intoxicated, they get to open up about. I've got some very interesting truths from some of my friends when they're in a drunk state. So hey, I think you're missing on a trick here, Hadiza.
Maybe, but yeah, so
jump onto something. Yeah. I mean, assume it's true because you can't get any other information anywhere else.
No, anywhere else. No matter where you go, it's block.
So your dad got a girlfriend?
So he started seeing someone else. I was about 6 at that stage, 5 or 6 years old between there. So when he started seeing her, I got to meet her. But when he introduced me to her, he said, "Nangu mamdala."
Meaning what, for those who don't understand this in the way?
I guess it's like your older auntie, isn't it? Like from your mom's side or the family. So it's like your mom's side's older auntie.
Okay.
And, I was like, okay, cool. Whatever. And at the time, because finances were low, I couldn't go to nursery. So it's either I was always with my dad or my dad would drop me off at my grandmother's house, but I didn't exactly like staying there. So I used to rebel and walk back home. So sometimes he'd have no choice but to take me with him.
Yeah.
So when he would take me with him, then, when he's going to meet his new bae, he would take me with him. And like I said, I was a bit of a blabbermouth. So, if he drops me off at my grandmother's, his younger sister would then say, "Where were you?" And then I'll be like, "Oh, I was here and here." So that's how my grandmother and my auntie found out about the new woman.
Okay.
Now, Tinto, I don't know whether I ever said anything to his current wife, B2. I have no memory of ever saying that to her, but apparently I did. That's how she found out. And they split up. So
on the basis of you saying something.
Apparently that's how it happened.
Okay.
Like I said, I don't know. I don't remember ever saying that to her.
I mean, you were very young, hey.
I was quite, so it might be true that I did say something. It might not be true, but I know I 100% say something to my grandmother and my auntie because I do remember doing that. But to my stepmother, I don't. And the thing is that my memories of her are I suppressed a lot of it.
Yeah, of course.
And it will become apparent why I did. So when they split up, obviously we went back to live with my grandmother. So my dad, myself and my sister moved back in with my grandmother. Their divorce was quite bad. And I think at one stage there was fighting over custody, but the judge was like, "Well, they're not your children, so why are you fighting?" The thing that I don't know is whether she was fighting for both me and my sister or just me. But again, because I won't lie, Tinto, that woman loved me. And I remember loving her as a child with the mother. But then I know there was probably like mixed feelings because I could see what was happening to my sister.
How did that impact your relationship with your sister?
It will become apparent.
Okay.
Yeah, telenovela.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
Telenovela.
yeah. Okay, no, I'll remind myself.
So we moved in with my grandmother. At my grandmother's house, there was my grandmother, my dad's younger sister, and my dad comes from like a big family. I won't say how many or who and who, but most of them had come overseas to work and they'd left their children at my grandmother's house. So once we moved in, my dad made the decision that he wanted to go overseas to work because obviously he figured out he would make a bit more money than what he was making in Zimbabwe. So he moved overseas, left me and my sister to live with my auntie and my grandmother and all the other kids that were there. Remember me saying I hated staying at my grandmother's house?
Yes, you mentioned it, yeah.
I used to leave and walk. I think it was a good 15 or 18 miles back to our house, and I would walk it. And I was about 4 or 5 when I was doing that. But I hated staying there.
Yeah.
So now imagine moving in.
What is it that you hated about being at your grandma's anyway?
I'll let you know.
There's a lot you're gonna let me know, man. You better remember.
There is. I will. Don't worry. I will. I promise.
Okay.
So we moved in. I think my dad didn't even last more than 6 months. I think probably 3 months, and he left. And that entire time, he was still seeing his bae, who eventually becomes stepmother number 2.
Yo, so this is B3. I'll call it B3.
Yeah.
Right.
So he left, came overseas, and then me and my sister stayed over, back where we were, and then that's when everything started getting worse. How do I describe my dad's younger sister? I'm trying to find nice words in my head. You know what? I think even calling her a witch is insulting witches.
Come on, Hadiza, you can't.
Yeah.
Really?
No, Tinto. Like, that's me insulting a witch. She was worse than that.
Lord of mercy.
My grandmother was quite old by the time we moved in with her. I think she was probably in her late 60s.
Yeah.
And her memory wasn't as good by that point.
So this is your dad's young sister or dad's older sister?
Younger.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And when we moved in after he left, I mean, before, there were comments being made like, oh, you guys used to live there, you used to think you're better than everybody else, but look at where you are now. But that was done when my dad wasn't at home. So when he left, he came to things got worse for me and my sister. Like, I mean, worse. For me, I started being, accused of ruining my dad's marriage, that it was my fault that the marriage ended.
So who was accusing you of that?
My dad's younger sister and all the other kids that were there. Because some of them were a lot older. Some of them are like, say, probably between the ages of 18 to about, the youngest would have been 1 year younger than me, so about 5 or 6.
And they were saying this to a 5-year-old child.
Yeah, so they would like do like a little court system, and then the older children would be like, "You need to confess. You need to confess. You need to tell the truth."
Hold on a second. This court system you're talking about, is that with kids or with some adults?
There will be some adults. So
when we're saying adults, are we talking people in their 20s, 30s?
Yes, we're not talking children. We're talking adults.
Sitting with a 5-year-old, asking the child to confess.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
And sometimes my sister would feel like she has no choice but to say to me, just say you did it so they can let you go.
This is ridiculous. I mean, but what guarantee was it that they would let you go with the way these people are going? They were not going to let you go.
Well, they wouldn't. They didn't. So, and remember, like I said, I loved my first stepmother. I won't lie and pretend like I didn't. I did.
Yeah.
And it felt like I got punished for that. And they would burn wedding pictures, like, because, when we moved in with all our other stuff. So they would burn the wedding pictures. They would rip her picture up into pieces. And then, there would be the whole, like, they know, like, her kids know they can hit you and you can't hit back because then they gang up on you. And then their mother doesn't do anything. And you would cry, like, go to cry, but there wasn't much you could do. yeah, by the time I think I was now in school, yeah, I think I was in grade 2 by that point. So, you would get told, we don't know how you're going to go to school because your father didn't send money for you to go to school.
But where was your sister at this point? Was she in school?
She was there.
So-
No, we were both there. We would both be sitting there having to be told all of this.
Right, okay, yeah.
Yeah, we would both be there having to be told. Yeah, because, we'll both be told, oh, your father didn't send money for you to go to school. Or the other, people sent money for their kids, but your father didn't send anything. You're only going to school because we feel sorry for you.
So here's the question. Had your dad sent money for real or he hadn't for real?
Don't know. Because when we would ask him, as I got older and I would ask, he would say he did. And then I think by that time, my stepmother, number 2, had moved to overseas to be with him.
Yeah.
And she would say, we did send, but we would be told no money was sent. So, it wasn't an easy thing. My grandmother had a farm, back where we were, you would be given like a plot of land for you to, I think she bought it. I can't remember the exact in and outs, but she had a little plot, but you had to walk to it. Like it was far to get to it. So I think it was about an hour or 20 minutes walk or something like that. It wasn't like a near, you had to really walk. So sometimes, my sister would be like, just go with Ugogo. That way you can be out of the house. And, money was tight. But the thing is that you never know whether money was tight because there was no money or money was tight because my dad's older sister was keeping the money. Well, not older sister, younger sister was keeping the money for her and her children or whatever. You never know.
How many children does she have?
I won't say the number.
Okay, fine.
But it's more than 3.
Okay, cool.
Because sometimes, you would see her call them into a room and give them how much sweets and stuff like that. And you guys wouldn't get anything.
Hi.
Yeah.
Your older sister,
Mm-hmm.
because she was older, she could have had this conversation with your dad. Do you know if she did, to say, hey, some of the kids are getting stuff that we don't get, blah, 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 blah?
No, because remember back then there were no phones in the house. So
right.
it's either you went to the really rich neighbors' houses to use their phone and everyone would be there listening to you talk, or you had to walk to those public phones. Again, everyone would be there listening to you talk. So the only thing you could say was, oh, can you send us money for bread or money for books? Or say what you were being told to say.
Yeah, this is sounding grim.
Yeah, so you wouldn't be able to say, this is what I'm going through. You would just be able to say, we have no bread. Can you send us money for bread?
And this money was always sent through your dad's younger sister?
Yeah, no, we never saw a penny of it. Tinto, I didn't start seeing money that I would say was coming from my father's side until one of my cousins, who's older, moved back from overseas back home. That's when because then they started sending to her directly. That's when I would say, yeah, I was living life. Like I could be able to eat sweets and stuff like that. Things that a child should be enjoying. I would say through her.
Do you know why this is so touching for me? You're not even talking about eating wholesome big meals. You're just saying that's when I was able to eat sweets. The very basics that children crave, just sweets. Eish, man.
Yeah, so it wasn't as I would say it was one of my cousins. So I was about how old was I when she came? I think I was about 9. No, I'd say no, I was about 9. So prior to then, not to toot my own horn, but I do hold my own at school. Irrespective of what's going on, I do hold my own.
It sounds like you did very well in school then.
I did. And I was doing quite well, even irrespective of what was going on at home. I think the first year we moved there and we had to go to a different school, I was number 4 at school. But that was because we started halfway through the year.
Yeah.
Then the next year I was number 2 or number 3. Yeah, between those 2.
Yeah.
But I remember that was because
always
it was
top 5.
Yeah.
Mm.
And they would do like school presentation at the end of the year for the top 3, and parents would be invited. Because my dad wasn't there, it was either my auntie who would come. There was no way my grandmother would come because she could barely walk sometimes. She had problems with her legs and stuff like that because she was quite frail. She would never turn up. Instead, you would have some strange person, running so you don't look so pathetic.
Yeah. Right.
Like you would see other kids' parents running up to hug them when they're picking up the presents.
Yeah.
And you would get up to go.
Yeah.
And it would be quiet. So there was this random woman. I don't know who the hell she is.
Yeah.
But she used to get up.
Because she could read the room.
Mm-hmm.
So up until this day, you don't know who she was?
No. No, she would get up and she'd be like, do the li or whatever she's doing.
Yeah.
Just, to
get rid of the awkwardness.
Mm-hmm. So, so then my cousin finally moved over and things got a little bit better, but it was still like it was still tense, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
Because obviously by then I don't think my father was aware of exactly what was going on at home because obviously you couldn't say anything. So, they were still sending money to his younger sister. So you would, if there were school trips, I remember there was one school trip where I know it was a zoo. There was a zoo like where we were. But I can't remember the name of it. And I don't want to say the name of it because I think then you would know where I'm
of course. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah.
So, I did ask for the money for my father because I did speak to him on the phone. He said he would send. Come time to pay for the trip, we were told he didn't send anything, so I couldn't go. And, everyone went in our entire, and I think there was only me and this one boy who were left behind.
Wow, that's painful, man.
Yeah, it was. It was embarrassing as hell as well. Because again, remember, everybody knows your father is overseas. So, people are looking at you like he can't even give you just this little small portion of money for you to go on this school trip. So there's that embarrassment. And let's be honest, kids can be cruel as well.
Yeah.
And one of my cousins was in the same grade as I am. So she went because apparently, they sent money for her, but they didn't send money for me. So you kind of just went, okay, cool. And just kept moving. And then when my other cousin finally came, and then things started getting a little bit better, she eventually told what was going on. She eventually told. So my father and B2 started sending money to her rather than sending money to my dad's younger sister. But that caused a lot. Yeah, but that's caused a lot of arguments, Tinto.
And at this point,
World War.
At this point, we're still staying with your dad's young sister?
We never went anywhere else. Even she came and stayed there because that was that was our main base there. So there was nowhere else you could go. That was the only base because that was my grandmother's house where everybody grew up. So there was nowhere else for you to go.
Yeah, it's all making sense why she should be upset because she probably got used to a certain lifestyle, which was now funding through your dad. And for those funds to now be diverted,
I mean, even when, my cousin ended up telling them what was going on here, only my dad and B2 kind of believed her. Everybody else was like, no, you guys are lying.
Well, that's B3
she would never do
actually.
That.
So B3, B3 stepmom number 2.
Yeah, right? Okay. Sorry, yeah. So all of that would kick off, but they would, they would say, the others, my dad's other siblings would say, no, you guys are lying. That's not what's happening. Again, I think that's another lesson. Not a lesson per se, but maybe Zim parents need to get used to the trauma their kids suffered when they left them to go overseas and work.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure a lot of people probably went through it a little bit. But so eventually I ended up going to boarding school. Yeah, I think after about 6 or 7 months after she came, I ended up in a boarding school because they thought it might make things better. And my sister ended up in one as well. So we
Okay.
were both, yeah. And also bear in mind, when they finally said what was going on, my cousin and my sister had snuck out and went and used the phone and actually told what was going on. So obviously, my dad and B3 told the others, who then said, no, you guys are lying. And then they called her and told her what was being said, which was World War 30 in that house. So it was really, really like, yeah, some of the words she said to my cousin were just unforgivable. And my grandmother at this point was really, really ill.
Yeah.
And also at this point, some of the older kids started being sent back, being sent abroad to go to their parents, because again, the older they go, the more they started talking about their own treatment.
Right. Gotcha. Makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, so they started talking about their own treatment and they started fighting back. So there was a lot of like fighting. I mean, there was a lot of fighting, especially with one he would kick off. The one that likes to get drunk and tell the truth.
I like that guy for some funny reason. I like him.
So, they started coming back. So after they started coming back, we went to boarding school. And then my grandmother passed away.
Oh, shame. Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, I love that woman with all my heart. I think she made things a hell of a lot more tolerable than they would have been if she wasn't there. If she wasn't there, I don't even know how me and my sister, I think mine and my sister's treatment would have been like 1,000 times worse.
Yeah.
So when she passed away, they obviously all came back to do the funeral. And then my dad decided that it's best for me and my sister to come back with him.
Oh, okay.
Just to recap, by that point, him and B3 were married. And I think they had, he was born. They had a son. So I had a younger brother by then.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so then he decided, he wanted us to go there. And also, I forgot to say, she did have a child of her own from a different
relationship or marriage, whatever, yeah.
Yeah, but we didn't live in the same. So she lived with her family and we lived with my dad's side of the family. So we didn't even see each other, to be honest with you.
It's interesting. Do you know why she would have not lived with her child and your dad?
I mean, she had come to be with him overseas, isn't he? This is where things start, you start thinking, oh, okay, I get you.
But from the sound of things, I'm just trying to make sure I have this right in my head. Your dad got with stepmom number 2, who we've called B3. And did you say B3 had her own child before? So, and this child did not live with them.
No, she was also back in the same country we were in, but she was with her. Yeah, so she was with her with
her own family.
Side of the family, and we were with my dad's side of the family.
Gotcha.
So we weren't exactly being raised in the same. No, we were.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. I don't know why that was done that way, but it was done that way anyway. I mean, to be fair to B3, she had come back and done her lobola. But again, the tension was already there. I mean, they didn't like each other. Her and my dad's younger sister really did not like each other by that point. They despised each other. So there was already, that level of tension or whatever. After my grandmother passed away, my dad decided we were to come back. We were to move overseas with him. And the plan was that we would go and also her child would come as well. So all three of us would go.
Oh, yeah. Makes sense.
But it turns out that when they were sending money to my dad's younger sister and saying to her, can you go get the girls' passports? She would say, yeah, they're done and they're received. They weren't done. There were no passports.
Way.
Yeah. Laugh, that is funny.
I thought this sort of stuff only happened with houses, as in they send money for you to build a house, and then when you get there's not even a foundation. This even goes to things like passports,
There were no passports. So my dad's now, back then, I think you were told it would take up to about 6 or 7 months to get one. And he had to beg and beg. So we ended up on travel documents.
That is crazy.
Yeah, we ended up on travel documents.
I bet you there was no apology from the young sister.
No. Oh, hell no. Apologize for who?
Out of curiosity, now that you're grown, do you talk to her?
Oh, hell.
Yeah, I didn't expect you
Nope.
to say anything
If she
else.
calls to say hi, I think I last less than 45 seconds on that phone call. I don't call, I don't text, no, I'm okay. It's okay. Go your way, I'll go my way. It's not that deep.
Hey.
Yeah, so eventually we got travel documents, so we were able to travel on documents. My father came back and left us. And when he left us, they started saying, "Oh, your tickets have not been paid for. Your father doesn't have the money to pay the tickets. You're not going anywhere. You're going to stay here with the rest of us." Then eventually the tickets were paid for.
Oh, thank
Then it
goodness.
changed to, yeah, even if you go, you'll be back. You will not get papers. You'll be back. We see them coming back all the time. The same thing's going to happen to you, so don't get excited.
Why were people so hateful?
I don't know. This went on and on and on. And then B3's sibling then came to pick us up because, she ended up being the one that took us to the airport for us to travel overseas.
Wow. And so
Yeah.
nobody from your dad's side of the family was willing to help you get to the airport, etc.?
I think it's also because, it had become clear the intentions. So even sending the money to pay the tickets, they didn't send to my dad's younger sister. They sent to B3's sister to go and pay.
That is mad.
Yeah, because I think it became apparent that, that was never going to happen. So eventually...
So out of curiosity, I know now you're about to talk about your guys transitioning to where your dad had moved to. Did you have a relationship with B3's family at all? So you've just mentioned... No.
Mm-mm.
Like how?
That will become clear.
Yo. Okay.
So eventually we ended up coming to the... Yeah, so even like buying clothes or getting our hair, braided to come over here, we had to go and meet B3's sister for her to be able to go and pay wherever we were going. Because again, like I said, they knew if you send it to this one, she wouldn't do it. But I think by that point, there had been a restriction on sending it to my cousin who'd been doing everything for us before. So I think something had happened which had meant it wasn't possible anymore. But, she was still there looking after us. I mean, even if they were late sending money to pay fees for boarding school, she would sneakingly take from whatever she was getting from her parent, use that to pay to cover us so that, the embarrassment wasn't as bad. And then when the money eventually came, she would then take it and replace.
Ish.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, she was a godsend. I won't lie.
Yeah, absolutely.
She was a godsend. So when we were leaving, I was like, I'm never coming back to this place.
Yeah.
I was like, never will I ever return. I won't even drop foot into this country if God willingly. And I won't lie, I haven't.
You haven't? Yo.
I refuse. There's no... I mean, I know people have asked me, what would happen if you have kids? I'm like, it's okay. They don't need to see it. It's fine. Let it stay there. I've never been back. I don't want to go. I don't want to even think about it. Even, when you have people offering, saying, oh, but you don't have to go there. You could come and stay with me. I'm like, no, it's okay. Thank you for the offer, though.
So this has cut you so deep that it's your association with the country itself is problematic.
Yeah, I have zero happy memories there, or any other happy memory that I thought was a happy memory was so tainted.
Hey.
That I can't see myself ever wanting to go there to see who. For who.
Yeah, no, I get it. I guess, I get it.
Yeah. So we came over to where my parents were, and luckily we actually were able to get like indefinite papers at the airport.
Yeah.
Which was really, really lucky. So that's when, me, my sister, and the other child then moved. So all three of us. Then we moved in with, my father and B3.
Yes.
I think with hindsight, because now I'm a little bit older and I can read the situations a little bit better, the differences in how we were all treated was already there from day one.
Explain.
I think, it's little things like, saying my child must have the best of everything else, and then you guys are just given the little tiny options. But you never saw it as a difference because, you were so excited to be getting new things, or whether it's clothes or whatever. You were just excited. But with hindsight, as an older person now, you can actually, especially as someone who now understands the differences in qualities of things, you kind of
Yeah.
get it a little bit.
Yeah.
Even the way,
So
And
so what I'm getting from that is that you and your sister would get a certain level of quality given, and then B3's child will have superior quality.
yes.
So here's the question.
Aha.
There are two parents in the same house
Aha.
with kids of their own. This was the
Aha.
perfect opportunity for your dad to say, hey, all kids get all the same. Or if not that, up the quality of what you were getting to match what B3 was giving her child. Why did your dad not do that, or did he?
He never did. Willful blindness. And also, I don't know what goes through a man's mind, or whether they think that's the only way to keep peace in the house. Or I think sometimes there's that assumption that just because someone has said, yes, I know you have children, they're actually going to do what they say they're going to do. So things were okay, but they were not okay when we came over. And I would say that's when things, probably 3 or 4 months. And then it became apparent that B3 and my dead siblings didn't like each other. But we knew my dead siblings because they would come and visit, they would bring you presents. You know, they were your dead siblings, your aunties and your uncles.
Mm-hmm.
So you already had that bond of this is family.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't, for me, I don't know how I did that, but I didn't class them the same as I classed his younger sister. I don't know how I did that, but I did that anyway.
As you saw them as two very different groups of people.
Yes.
Even though they were, fundamentally the same.
Yeah. And even my love for them.
I think it was based on your experience, eh? Because
Probably.
because these these ones in the country where your dad is were not trying to be mean. They were trying to connect and build and love. Whereas the other one was trying to destroy and tear down and hurt.
She was. I mean, even when one of them came over to visit, the one whose daughter actually came and was the one who was looking after us. She was really nice. She was really welcoming. She was, I think, hugging you and stuff, something you weren't experiencing back there. Because I don't think we were even, there's never been a hug. I mean, I think if she touched me, I used to shrink back.
So how are you with affection now in general?
I'm not good. I don't like it. I always think your affection comes with a dagger behind my back.
Wow.
I don't trust it. I don't trust, no matter how much someone gives me good intentions, I question it. And the thing is, I don't do it in front of your face, but in my brain. Trust and believe I'm moving 0 to 1,000.
But in a funny way, and perhaps I'll speak for myself, that you may not show something to my face, but I will feel it in your vibe. So
maybe. No, but then I think I've become so good at masking things. I've become so very good at not showing my pain as out loud. I mean, sometimes it seeps through, and I think the more comfortable I become, especially I would say my friends, probably they're more likely to say, I know her, because they've had time to get to know me. But I think if you met me today, it's either you love me or hate me, because sometimes I can be so cold when I meet people, because there's something about your energy that I'm like, danger zone. I need to move from this one.
So I got a quick question. Not to deviate too much from your story.
No, it's okay.
It's a really slight deviation. Relationship-wise, how are you doing with guys?
Well.
Maybe I'll put it in 2 options because I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. Good or bad?
Very bad.
Okay, we'll talk about that another time. But
very bad.
But I've kind of earmarked that for us to have as a discussion later on.
To be fair, I think it will become apparent why I'm so very bad. Because like I say, when I first got to where we were, things were okay. Things were better than where we were coming from. So, there was that excitement of saying, at least it's not like where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
But then it started to change.
So are you talking about the change of the love that you're receiving from this other set of uncles and aunties, or changing from the love between your dad and B3?
No, I would say change in what was happening between more myself and B3 than my older sister. And I think one of the incidents that really did trigger it was, like I say, I had a really good love and friendship for,
Yeah.
especially one of my dad's siblings. Like
Yeah.
I really, really, really adored her.
Mm-hmm.
And I had overheard my B3 talking about her to one of her friends in not so very nice terms.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt guilty not telling her. And I can't explain why I felt that guilt, or maybe it's because I thought about the way she had loved on me, and I didn't think it was, because it wasn't like nice, like Tinto, it was vile what she was saying. It was really horrible.
She's just talking about who?
One of my dad's siblings to one of her friends on the phone.
Okay.
So I went and I told her, and I said, look, I just think you should be aware. So at least whatever you're doing, whatever fights you are getting into, you stay away from. I don't know what happened. I can't tell you.
Did you
I
know
don't
it's
know
interesting? Just while she's saying that, I don't think you're the kind of person who wants to bottle stuff in. Because
I'm
remember,
not.
even when you're super young, and any 4 or 5 year old child would do this. You blurted out stuff that eventually resulted in your dad and B2 splitting. And people came down on you like a ton of bricks. And now here's another situation where you're potentially letting out a cat out of the bag that could cause some more wahala. So it's an integral part of you, and it's not a bad thing.
Well, it's a part that I now really suppress. I don't want to know. Like when someone comes to me and says that, I just don't, leave me alone.
Yeah. That was going to be my next question, to say suddenly now you say you bottle up stuff and you don't say stuff. Now,
I don't want to know.
Is this because every time you've said stuff, it has blown up in your face?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I begged Dad not to tell anyone that I told her this.
Mm-hmm.
Tinta, by the time I walked into the house, she'd already called and shouted at her and said, I heard what you said about me. Da, 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 da. So B3 was angry, and she was like, I know it's between you and your sister Hosseidi, so Hosseidi. Yeah. And she was like, I'm not going to be angry. I just want to know. And me being stupid, I said it was me. And yeah, from there things went
left.
Left is, a plane that nosedives to the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what happened. Jeez. She went and told her friends. And then one night my dad was on a night shift, so her friends came over and they held another court system.
Lord have mercy.
And they were like, we're going to take you to their family. They're going to do the typical, you don't know what they're going to do to you. They're going to be so angry. I remember one of them saying to me and my sister, if you girls think you're such queens, maybe we should take you to Claire's and buy you the crown so you can wear the queens you think you are. I will never forget that.
How old were you at this point?
12.
Jesus.
I was 12. So, every time my dad would go to a night shift,
you knew that all hell would break loose, yeah?
Yeah. You knew it was going to be World War 20. And yeah, my sister was still, doing majority of this stuff, like, the cooking, the cleaning and stuff like that. And by that point, there was the 3 that came from Zimbabwe and then the younger boy who was quite young at that stage. Yeah, we were at school by then. So, it would be little things like, being told there's no money for pack lunch, for school lunches, because at the time we were still on school lunches. But there was money to give the other child, and me and my sister would be told there's no money. Sometimes my dad would do whatever he could do, and then you would see him running into school during lunchtime. So he would, ask the reception to call us so he could give us money. And sometimes if that didn't happen, you would just go and hide in the library and pretend like you had loads of homework to do.
Hey, this is breaking my heart, man. This is a lot.
Yeah, so in the end, we made a decision to say we will go and pack lunches because we thought that would be 1, cheaper, and 2, probably would mean that we actually have food. The other child was not on peg lunches because
Yeah.
obviously apparently there was a difference in the way the government deals with primary school and secondary school, and if these things were not done for a child in primary school, social services would be called. That was the excuse we were given. So we did what we did, and then I finally went on my first school trip, which was fun.
Yeah.
It was a trip away to a little island. So that was really fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to make some friendships, like some really good friendships, get along with people in my year. And so did my sister. We were in school, we were doing quite well in terms of establishing friendships.
Mm-hmm.
But home was a completely different story. I used to run away a lot. Because sometimes I would get blamed for things that I didn't do. Like the other child saying, I saw her throw the clothes on the floor. And I'm like, wait, what? I wasn't even anywhere near them. And no one would believe me if I said, but I didn't, because it said, but she saw you. So is she lying? So I used to run a lot. And in the end, the sibling I told what had been said is the one I used to confide in a lot.
Yeah.
So one time she ended up calling my social services.
Aye.
And they came and, they asked my sister and she said, no, I was lying. So nothing was done. So I learned to start fighting back with my mouth. I can't hear, but I can talk. I knew telling anyone apart from that auntie, no one else believed me. So even my father didn't believe me. He thought I was just lying or just making things up. So a lot of the times it would be like, manga, which means you're lying. Or they would say, I'm jealous of the relationship that my father is building with the other child. Or because there's now the younger child as well, the two other kids are now around. So I learned to, if I was told you're ugly, I'll be like, so are you.
I didn't think I was gonna laugh, but I just but I just imagined it in my own head. Right, this is coming from somebody who, already kind of finds it okay to say what's on their mind, but they've gone into a shell, and now they're trying to make their way out of a shell, and they're just like, yeah, you're ugly too.
Yeah.
So playing that in my head, made me
Over
chuckle.
the years, I started doing that. She'd say something, I say back. I mean, one example is I think I was about 13 or 14. Like this is an example out of the blue. I had read in an article that, Victoria Beckham used to shoot 21 times because that's how she makes sure that she stays skinny. And I found it fascinating.
Wow.
And I'm someone who, when I read things, I get fascinated and I keep them in my mind. I think I still do it to my friends and they've got used to me getting excited about stupid things. So we were in the car driving from somewhere and I said I was like, oh, did you know Victoria Beckham does this and this? And then she went, is that why you're so skinny?
Hey.
And I turned around and I said, no, it's because I don't want to be a fat pig like you.
Hey, clap back, pop, 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 pop.
And I won't lie, to this day, if you piss me off, my mouth is reckless. Because I got reckless. I got to a state. I was like, if things are gonna happen and I'm gonna get punished, at least let me feel some enjoyment while I'm getting it.
Yeah.
So, but the sad thing is that, she started splitting me and my sister up. There would be things being emphasized like, oh, your dad prefers your sister to you. Then there would be, pushing for my sister to have a better relationship with them, and I would get left out. Like they would do things and I would get left out. And if, they were asked, why didn't you take this one with you? They would say it's because she doesn't like it. But nobody would have asked me. So I learned to be my own bestie.
Hey.
I turned to books. And the funny thing is, she actually introduced me to one of the books. And I turned to them. And I have such a high regard for this author. I don't care what anyone says about her. I absolutely adore her. And because her books were a lifeline to me, the level of resilience I got. So basically, anyway, I used to read a lot of Harry Potter. And the way I used to make myself feel better is I would look at the life of Harry Potter and I would say he lost both his parents, but he's still nice and kind and he's still fighting every day. So I got to do the same.
I see.
And that's why I loved those books.
So it was a good motivator for you.
I used to read, I mean, I would read them about, I think I've read those books about 1,000,000 times.
Yeah.
They were my lifeline. Like if you found me not sitting with anyone, I would be reading those books. Like I would be on my own. So that would take us, then we've eventually moved to a bigger house. And yeah, I mean, the treatment got worse and worse. And then the silent treatment started because she said my mouth is reckless, so she doesn't want to speak to me. So I would get ignored a lot. Remember me saying to you, if you don't text me back within 20 minutes, my mind goes 0 to 1,000?
I remember that. Okay. Now it's all making sense now. Yeah.
So I can't deal with silence. Even to this age, I can't.
Right.
My mind, I did it in front of one of my friends. You give me silence. And from that silence, I will come up with why you're silent.
Yeah.
I will come up with a conclusion and then I'll respond from that.
Because
for me, silence is danger.
It's interesting you say that, and this is the third episode. I'm referring to this book, and I'm just going to say it for the benefit of those who may want to look it up. There's a book known as The Four Agreements.
I have read those.
Yeah, you see, and it's interesting that you've read those 4 agreements, but the third agreement is what you've just described. And the third agreement says don't make assumptions, because if you make an assumption, you will form an opinion that you will justify as correct to make your assumption accurate. And yet the reality might be completely different.
I read that book last year. And I actually started applying those principles last year. Sometimes I'm good at it. Sometimes I'm not.
Again,
but I think it depends on how.
And again, just to add on to that comment you've just made, the 4th agreement says always do your best. And it recognizes that you're human by nature, and it's impossible for you to make life-changing decisions and movements at the click of a finger.
Yeah.
It takes time.
Yeah.
So out of curiosity, how much of this best are you really applying? Are you really trying to do your best? Because from the sound of things, I think you still formulate opinions based on assumptions and all of that stuff. And maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. You may not be following guidance of agreement number 2, which is don't take anything personal.
I struggle with not taking anything personally. I think the more I tell you, I mean, we are at the scratch of B number 3 because that goes on for about until now.
Well, interestingly enough, this is perfect time for me to actually stop it here then. Because I'm looking at where our time is, and if we're only just scratching the surface of B3, I'm not about to sit down and rush either myself or you into this, because I would like you to feel comfortable enough to let everything out the bag.
Yeah.
Because there feels like there's a lot here.
There is. The funny thing is, I never really sit down, and I think I've only ever done it with my therapist, but with anyone else apart from her, I don't think I've ever sat down and really said, this is how life was. And a lot of the times, the way I respond to people is from that. And I don't mean to, but because I've had to learn to protect myself so much, I do it. And it's become like an instinct that I can't get rid of.
Yeah.
And that's why I say to you, relationships, I struggle because, again, that assumption, I respond from that rather than respond from what's going on now.
In a funny way, the defense mechanism that you've put can, in a way, be helped by what you are as a person. So by nature, I think you're somebody who doesn't hold back, right? If you feel the need to say something, whether good or bad, you will say it. The manner in which you say it might be a different story. So dealing with agreement number 3 should be fairly easy for you, because it says don't make assumptions. You are the perfect person to just say exactly what you're feeling so that you don't have to make an assumption. So you have a strength you can benefit from. It's inherent in your DNA.
Yeah, it is. But the problem is how somebody else responds. That's where it becomes tricky.
But that's where agreement number 2 is a fantastic agreement.
Yeah.
On either side, don't take things personally. I was having a really interesting conversation with a friend of mine 2 days ago, right? And she says to me, she read somewhere in a book that you should never take things personally because you don't know what somebody was going through in that moment. So if you ask me a question and I'm having a bad day, my response might be really horrible to you. Not to say that I mean it, but I'm just having a bad day. And if you ask the same thing and I'm having a good day, you might get a totally different response.
I am exactly like that.
You know, but in either case, it has hit you differently based on my attitude. That's got nothing to do with you.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely nothing to do with you.
I do that a lot. I won't lie. Sometimes I've had to learn to tone down how I say things, even if I'm saying it. I now have, I have a friend who actually pointed this out, and she said, "I really like it when you do this." I ask her, "Are you in the mental capacity for me to say what I'm thinking, or for me to address this?" And she'll come to me and say, "No, I'm having a really difficult day. Can we table it in for 2 weeks time?"
Okay,
And in 2
gotcha.
weeks time, she will literally come back to me and say, "Okay, you wanted to talk about something. What
Yeah,
is it?"
she's
And
ready.
it works for me and her
Yeah.
because we've had to find that common ground where we can say, "Okay, I'm very upfront. If you say to me, like, I'm wearing these jeans, what do you think?" I'm more likely to be like, "Nah, let it go." But the same girl, she's exactly the same. Like, she will tell you what she thinks. She's very upfront. But I think the problem is that sometimes some people are not ready for that level of honesty.
Yeah, no.
And you have to learn. I've got into even at work, I've had to learn to not be so freely expressive. Because some people they don't respond well. And I guess that's a lesson I had to learn as a child, that
Yeah, context
for
and
me,
awareness of where people are makes a
for
big
me,
difference.
and I carry a lot of guilt. So sometimes when I say it, it's because I don't want to carry your guilt. I really don't want to deal with the guilt that you're leaving on my doorstep. And like I say to you, when I had her say what she said about my dad's sibling, it was the guilt that I was then carrying around. So me telling her was me saying, "Okay, you deal with it." But she had promised me she wouldn't take it back. But she took it back and went and said, "This is what happened."
Yeah.
And, now as an adult, I can see the shadiness of her doing that. Because what she did is she landed me in hot fire. And she left me to deal with that hot fire on my own. Yeah, she was there and I was able to go and tell her. But nothing would happen. I still had to deal with that hot fire on my own. And I had to deal with that hot fire until even today, I'm still having to deal with the ramifications from that one moment and everything else that happened. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that one moment deserved what I had to live through. It didn't. Because first it started off as being physical hitting, then it became emotional. And emotionally abusing a child and gaslighting a child is the worst thing you can do, because you're basically depriving them of basic ways of being able to build relationships with others as they grow. And I struggled. Sometimes I look at my friends and I ask myself, why are they friends with me? Because I must be the most awful person to deal with. When a guy leaves me, I'm like, you know what? They were right. I'm awful. I don't deserve anybody's love. And that's why even with child abuse, if you're my friend and I see you talk to a child some type of way, even if you're saying, "Oh, I'm teaching them," we're fighting. Hands will get thrown.
Yeah,
because
because
that
you've been in a
child,
space where you've been treated like that.
I can't. Hands will get thrown. We will fight. It can get real in the I don't care. we can hit each other if we have to. But you can't do that to a child, because those words get imprinted.
Yeah.
And Tinto, I have so many words that are imprinted.
Honestly, I almost feel like this book was written for you, because that is agreement number 1. Be impeccable with your word, which is basically saying impeccable in the context of the book means without sin. So do not say things that would hurt so bad that it could really affect somebody's livelihood for life. And what you're saying here is precisely what they're talking about. Okay, I'm gonna put brakes on it here. And for those who are listening to this episode, it's premature for me to actually get back to the lessons, because suddenly now we need to have part 2 of this, just to at least get some more information on what happened primarily with I suspect stepmother number 2, who's B3, and I don't know how much more your dad has a part to play in all of this, but all of this will unfold in next weekend's episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Hadiza, for making time for this. I'll give you a shout soon after this to schedule our second call. But for those who've been listening to this episode of The Feeling Station, I'm your host, Tinto, and I look forward to catching you in next weekend's story. Take care.
Bestie.